A middle-aged man collapsed in a small Miami clinic, cardiac arrest, his wife screaming for help. Moments later, a calm, confident figure in a pristine white coat entered the room. He barked orders, applied pressure, called for adrenaline. Within seconds, the patient's heart began to beat again. Applause erupted. The doctor smiled softly, placed his stethoscope on the man's chest, and whispered, "You're safe now." But what if the man holding the stethoscope was never a doctor at all? His name was Ethan Miles. At least, that's what everyone thought. In 2012, Dr. Miles was a rising star in South Florida's medical community. He had the look, square jaw, calm eyes, and effortless authority that made people listen. He ran a private clinic, appeared on local TV shows to discuss medical trends, and posted motivational quotes about health on Instagram. He was adored by patients, trusted by nurses, and respected by hospital boards. But behind that polished smile and spotless lab coat was an empty degree frame, a forged diploma, a stolen identity. The story begins years earlier, long before he ever held a stethoscope. Ethan grew up in a small industrial town in Pennsylvania. His father worked in a steel plant, his mother at a diner. Their house was always filled with noise, the TV humming, arguments over bills, the creak of tired floorboards. Ethan was quiet, watchful, a boy who preferred pretending rather than living. He'd imitate TV doctors, practicing fake diagnoses on his sister's dolls. His teachers said he had charm, a good liar in the making, his mother once joked. When his father died in a machinery accident, something in him shifted. At 16, Ethan began reinventing himself, not to survive, but to be someone entirely. He forged school reports, borrowed his cousin's ID to take college exams, and talked his way into pre-med seminars at a nearby university. Professors assumed he was an early enrollee. No one questioned him. He spoke the language of confidence fluently. It wasn't long before he discovered his talent wasn't healing people, it was becoming people. By his early 20s, Ethan had moved to Florida. He bounced between part-time jobs, assistant in a pharmacy, clerk at a medical supply store, janitor in a hospital. Each job gave him a piece of the puzzle. The jargon, the paperwork, the posture of a doctor. He studied how real physicians walked, how they spoke to nurses, how they signed their names. At night, he'd sit at a rented desk with a second-hand printer and cheap photo paper, slowly assembling his new life. A forged medical degree from Johns Hopkins, a fake DEA license, a social security number belonging to a retired surgeon. By 2009, Dr. Ethan Miles existed on paper, real enough to fool the internet, banks, and the state's medical verification office. He started small, consulting for low-income clinics that barely ran background checks. He spoke with conviction, diagnosing confidently, recommending expensive but unnecessary tests. Patients adored him. Nurses said he had a healing presence. But the truth was, Ethan had no idea what he was doing. He read from medical textbooks before appointments, memorized lines from YouTube medical lectures, and copied real prescriptions word for word. And then came the first tragedy. A patient named Maria Torres, 42, came to him complaining of persistent headaches. Ethan smiled, said it was stress, and prescribed mild medication. 2 weeks later, she was found unresponsive in her home, a cerebral aneurysm, undiagnosed. At the funeral, Ethan stood among the mourners, holding flowers, tears in his eyes. Her husband hugged him and said, "You did your best, doctor." And Ethan believed it. He convinced himself he had tried. It was the moment his lies crossed into something irreversible. Over the next 3 years, his fame grew. He opened a private clinic in Coral Gables, funded by investors who believed he was a medical prodigy. He wore tailored suits under his white coat, drove a silver Jaguar, and gave free health seminars to the community. Local TV called him Miami's miracle doctor. But behind closed doors, things were cracking. He began slipping during consultations, confusing symptoms, forgetting dosages. His nurse, Cynthia Alvarez, noticed irregularities in the paperwork. Prescriptions written under multiple license numbers, lab results missing signatures. When she confronted him, he smiled and said, "There's always red tape in this business." Yet something about his calm unnerved her. One night, she stayed late to file patient records. She opened the cabinet marked licenses and found an envelope. Inside, 2 passports, both with Ethan's face, but different names. One was Ethan Miles, MD. The other was Daniel Mercer, consultant. The next morning, Cynthia resigned. 2 weeks later, she filed a confidential report with the Florida Medical Board. But what she didn't know was that Ethan already felt the walls closing in. In August 2014, an investigative journalist named Ryan Keller received an anonymous tip. Look into Dr. Miles. His credentials don't exist. Ryan started digging. Johns Hopkins had no record of an Ethan Miles graduating in any medical field. The DEA license number was valid, but registered to a deceased pediatrician in New Jersey. Ryan called the clinic pretending to be a patient. He booked an appointment. When he arrived, he noticed something strange. The medical degrees on the wall had no raised seals, only glossy prints. Ethan greeted him warmly, checked his blood pressure, and gave him lifestyle advice. Everything seemed normal until Ryan requested his lab results. The lab he mentioned didn't exist. That was the moment Ryan knew this wasn't just a fake degree. It was an entire fake ecosystem built around one man. The investigation intensified. Ryan published a short article online. Who is Dr. Miles? Within hours, it went viral. Patients flooded comment sections with testimonials, some praising him, others accusing him of malpractice. TV networks picked up the story. Ethan denied everything. He appeared on camera, smiling, dismissing the rumors as a jealous competitor's smear campaign. But deep down, he knew it was over. On September 3rd, 2014, at 2:37 a.m., Ethan emptied his clinic's safe, cash, hard drives, passports, and vanished. For weeks, federal agents scoured airports, border crossings, and financial trails. Nothing. He seemed to dissolve into thin air. But 6 months later, in a small town outside Bogota, Colombia, a local dentist reported something strange. A man offering medical consultations in English. He called himself Dr. Mercer. Interpol was notified. When authorities arrived, they found him mid-appointment, holding a stethoscope over a young girl's chest. He didn't run. He didn't argue. He just smiled, set the stethoscope down, and said, "You finally found me." During interrogation, Ethan, or Daniel, or whatever his real name was, remained composed. He admitted to practicing medicine without a license, forging documents, and fleeing the country. But when asked why, he gave an answer that chilled investigators. He said, "People needed me. I gave them hope. And sometimes that's better than the truth." His words spread across news outlets like wildfire. Some called him a monster. Others called him a symptom. Proof of how charisma could outshine credibility in a world obsessed with appearances. At trial, dozens of former patients came forward. Some testified against him, describing dangerous misdiagnoses. Others defended him, saying he changed their lives for the better. One woman, a cancer survivor, wept as she said, "He made me believe I could live again." The jury deliberated for 9 hours. The verdict: guilty. Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and practicing medicine without a license. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. As the guards led him away, he turned to the courtroom, smiled faintly, and said, "Don't worry, the doctor will see you soon."
Years later, a documentary crew was granted permission to interview him inside prison. His hair was gray now, his voice quieter. When asked if he regretted it, he paused for a long time and said, "I regret getting caught, not for what I did, but for how the world sees it. Everyone pretends. I just made mine convincing." When the interview ended, he leaned back in his chair, staring at the camera with the same calm that once fooled thousands. A guard entered, chains clinking, signaling time was up. As he stood, he looked straight into the lens and whispered, almost proudly, "Do you know what they still call me here?" He smiled, "Doctor." And just like that, he was gone.